I never thought an elevator could change my life, but that night proved me wrong. If I had taken the stairs or left work 10 minutes earlier, nothing that followed would have happened. But I didn't. And because of that, everything shifted in ways I never saw coming. I had been working at the company for several years, and on paper, I was doing fine. I showed up early, stayed late, and took on more work than most people around me. Still, my career felt frozen. No matter how much effort I put in, I stayed in the same place while others moved ahead. There was always someone smarter, louder, or better connected. I wasn't miserable, but I wasn't going anywhere either. I knew I could do more. I just didn't know how to prove it. My boss, Olivia Carter, was part of the reason everyone worked so hard. She was respected, and a little feared too. Mid-40s, sharp, professional, and always in control. She never talked about her personal life, no photos on her desk, no stories about weekends or family, just work. People whispered about her sometimes, but no one really knew anything. And honestly, I never thought it was my place to wonder. That Wednesday evening, I stayed late finishing a report. By the time I shut down my computer, most of the office was empty. My head was pounding, and all I wanted was a hot shower and sleep. I grabbed my bag and headed for the elevator. I stepped inside and leaned against the wall, rubbing my temples. Just as the doors were closing, Olivia walked in. "David," she said with a short nod. "Miss Carter," I replied, standing straighter without thinking. The doors shut, and the elevator started moving. It was just the two of us. That familiar tension settled in. She wasn't rude, but she wasn't warm either. The kind of boss you never joked with. We rode in silence for a few seconds. Then the elevator jerked hard and stopped. The lights flickered once, then went out completely. "What the hell?" I muttered. Olivia stayed calm. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight, then pressed a few buttons on the panel. Nothing happened. She hit the emergency button. A crackling voice came through the speaker and explained there was a citywide power outage. It could take at least an hour, maybe more. My stomach tightened. Being trapped in a metal box wasn't my idea of a good night, especially not with my boss. Olivia sighed and leaned against the wall. Great. I tried to stay calm. "So, what do we do now?" "We wait," she said simply. The silence felt heavy. The emergency light hummed softly. I shifted my weight, restless. "Do you think this will mess up anything important?" I asked, just to say something. She considered the question. "Probably not. I may have to reschedule a meeting." Another pause. "You seem nervous," she said. I laughed, but it sounded forced. "It's not every day you get stuck in an elevator with your boss." She raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. "Do you ever get nervous?" I asked. She surprised me by answering. "Not often." There was something calm and honest in her voice. "Must be nice," I muttered. "What makes you nervous?" she asked. I didn't plan to say it, but the words came out anyway. "Feeling stuck," quote. She studied me for a moment, then nodded slightly, like she understood. That was when I realized it wasn't just the elevator, it was my life. We talked more after that. About patience. About control. She told me a story from college, getting stuck on a subway for 2 hours while everyone panicked. She didn't. She just waited. "You don't seem like the type to panic," I said. "I don't," she replied. "You do." I smiled. Fair. At one point, I asked why she kept everything so private. She turned the question back on me. I didn't have an answer. She explained that people expect things when they think they know you. That success makes people assume you owe them something. I understood more than I expected. Then she said something that stayed with me. "I've noticed your work," she said. "You put in effort, but effort alone isn't always enough." I didn't know what to say. "Sometimes," she added, "the right people have to notice at the right time." Before I could respond, the lights flickered back on. The elevator started moving again. When the doors opened, she stepped out, then paused and looked back at me. "Think about what I said, David." And then she walked away. I stood there longer than I should have, knowing something important had just started, even if I didn't understand it yet. That night, I barely slept. Olivia's words kept replaying in my head. "You've probably earned it." I had heard plenty of feedback in my career, but nothing like that. Not from her. Not in that quiet, honest way. Over the next few days, something shifted in me. I still did my work, but I stopped shrinking in meetings. When I had an idea, I spoke up. When someone talked over me, I didn't let it slide. I wasn't louder, just clearer, more present. I made sure my work didn't just get done but got noticed. By Friday afternoon, I was finishing up a report when an email popped up on my screen. Subject, let's talk. It was from Olivia. The message was short. If you have time after work, stop by my office. I'd like to discuss something. That was it. No explanation. My chest tightened. I spent the rest of the day trying to guess what it meant. Had I crossed a line? Was she going to shut down whatever had happened in the elevator? Or was this about work? By 6, the office was quiet again. I took a deep breath and walked to her office. The door was closed, but the light was on. I knocked. Come in. She was sitting at her desk, but her blazer was off. She looked tired, human. Sit, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. I did. For a moment, she just studied me. Then she leaned back. You've been more engaged this week. I've tried to be, I said. She nodded. Good. That's why I called you in. She told me about a project. A big one. Extra hours, extra pressure. Not an official promotion, but a chance to prove myself. A real chance. If you handle it well, she said, it puts you in the right position. I didn't hesitate. I'll do it. She seemed pleased. She slid a folder toward me. I flipped through it. It was intimidating, but it felt right. As I stood to leave, she added something unexpected. I was planning to grab a coffee tomorrow morning, she said. If you're free, you're welcome to join. Coffee, outside work. I agreed before I could overthink it. The next morning, I arrived early. Olivia was already there, dressed casually. She looked different, relaxed. We sat across from each other, coffee between us. At first, it felt strange. At work, there was always a distance. Here, it felt equal. She told me she understood what it was like to feel stuck, to feel unseen. I told her about my past relationship, how it ended. She listened without judgment. It's lonely, she admitted quietly, being in my position. That surprised me. She said that was why she had been honest in the elevator, why she trusted me. When we stood to leave, she smiled and said, maybe we should do this again sometime. I walked away knowing this wasn't just about work anymore. And I had no idea where it was leading, but for once, I wasn't afraid to find out. A few months passed after that first coffee, and on the surface, everything looked normal. I still showed up to work every morning, still answered emails, still stayed late when I had to, but underneath all of that, everything had changed. Olivia started pulling me into meetings I had never been part of before. She asked for my opinion, not as a formality, but like it actually mattered. The project she gave me pushed me harder than anything I had done in years. I worked nights, weekends. I doubted myself more than once, but every time I thought about quitting, I remembered the way she had looked at me in that elevator. Like she saw something in me I had almost stopped believing in myself. It wasn't just work that shifted between us. We started getting coffee more often. At first, it felt harmless, two people talking, but then coffee turned into dinner. Dinners turned into long walks where neither of us wanted to be the first to leave. We never talked about what it was. We didn't have to. There was an understanding growing between us, quiet but strong. At the office, we were careful, professional. No one suspected anything. She was still my boss, and I was still her employee. But outside those walls, she was different. She laughed more. She shared small pieces of herself, stories about her past, her failures, the pressure of always being the one in charge. One evening, after a late dinner, she asked if I wanted to come over to her place. The moment she said it, my heart started racing. This felt like a line, one that couldn't be uncrossed. Her apartment surprised me. Modern but warm. Clean lines, soft lighting, and just enough personal touches to show it was her space. We sat on the couch with glasses of wine, talking like we always did, but there was something heavier in the air, like we were both waiting for the other to say something first. Finally, she looked at me. David, she said softly, yeah? Do you regret this? Quote. I frowned. Regret what? She gestured between us. Us. Whatever this is. I leaned forward. Do you? She didn't answer right away. She studied me like she was measuring the risk. Then she shook her head. No, I don't. I felt relief wash over me. Good, I said, because I don't either. She reached out then, her fingers brushing against mine. The touch was light, almost cautious, but it said more than words ever could. That was the moment everything became real. After that night, we didn't rush anything. We were careful. At work, nothing changed. We kept our distance. Outside of work, we let ourselves be together. It wasn't reckless. It was quiet, intentional. Late dinners, long conversations, mornings where I woke up feeling like my life was finally moving forward. I realized I wasn't just building a career anymore. I was building something real. And it all traced back to one broken elevator. A year later, I was standing in Olivia's kitchen, watching her make coffee like it was the most normal thing in the world. Morning light filled the room, soft and quiet. She wore an old sweater, her hair loose, nothing like the sharp, untouchable woman everyone at the office knew. And that was when it hit me. This was my life now. The project she had trusted me with had changed everything. It wasn't easy. There were moments I felt overwhelmed, moments I doubted myself, moments I thought I might fail, but I didn't. I pushed through. I learned how to speak up, how to stand my ground, how to stop waiting for permission to be seen. When the promotion finally came, it wasn't dramatic. No big announcement. Just a closed-door meeting where she told me I had earned it, that my work spoke for itself now. I walked out of that office knowing I was no longer stuck. At work, we stayed professional, careful, respectful of the line we both knew existed. No favoritism, no whispers. Outside of work, we were us. Slow dinners, quiet nights, honest conversations about fears, mistakes, and the future. One evening, sitting on her couch, she admitted something she had never said before. I spent years thinking I had to choose, she said, career or connection, strength or softness. And now? I asked. She looked at me and smiled. Now I know I don't. That was when I understood that what we had wasn't built on impulse or convenience. It was built on respect, on timing, on two people seeing each other clearly at the right moment. Sometimes I think back to that Wednesday night. The flickering lights, the silence, the feeling of being trapped. If the elevator hadn't stopped, I might still be waiting, still invisible, still telling myself someday. Instead, I learned something simple and true. Sometimes the moments that feel like nothing at first are the ones that quietly change everything.